Hey everybody, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm continuing a series. The series is called Replacement Singers. Who did it better? Next up is Deep Purple. Of course, it's Ian Gillan. We've got David Coverdale. We've got Glenn Hughes. And I know I've done a few things on them, but I've never quite juxtaposed them in this kind of way. And I think it's important since these are some of the greatest rock singers in all of rock history. And certainly Deep Purple was known, as did Rainbow and other various forms of Ritchie Blackmore. It had a lot of singer changes, member changes in the band. So I just want to dive right in. Before I forget, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. That'd be really cool. I have a singing forum for you guys that are interested in wanting to learn how to sing. It's over at KenTamplinVocalAcademy.com, where I have 25,000 singers over there, all talking about how to get great at singing. And I have a singing course for you guys wanting to learn how to sing, or if you're already an intermediate singer or advanced singer, I take you all the way to the highest levels of singing. You can find it right here at KenTamplinVocalAcademy.com, again, where the proof is in the singing. So let's dive right in. Of course, we're going to do it chromatically, or in chronologically, not chromatically. First singer up is Ian Gillan. Here we go.
Nobody gonna take my car and gonna race it to the ground. Nobody gonna take my car and gonna break the speed of the sound. Ooh, it's a killing machine. It's got everything. Like a driving power, big fat tires and everything. I love it. I need it. I need it. Yes, it turns me on, right, hold tight.
Cool. Now, some of that was a little pitchy. Some of the high notes were a little pitchy. That end was a little pitchy. But it's still Ian Gillan, and he still has his thing. That's just amazing. And he invented it, too. Like, he kind of wrote the book on sort of this stuff really early on. I'm not certain, and I don't even remember exactly where this performance was, but I think this was kind of more of his comeback when he had stopped drinking, because I know he had a horrible drinking problem, drug problem, whatever. And so, you know, his performances weren't so hot early on. I mean, you can look at Child in Time and stuff, and, you know, you can decide on how you think he performed. This particular performance is a really good one. He did a good job. He looks clean. He looks clear. He's got good energy. And I like the performance. Now, I did a version of this. I'm going to put it in the description. You can see how I did. I did a version of Child in Time. I'll put that in the description. You can see how I did. I did Perfect Strangers. I'll put that in the description. You can see how I did. So I did Mistreated. I did, I've done quite a few Deep Purple-ishy kinds of things. So I'll put all of that in the description. You can tell me, hey, Ken, you suck. Ken, you were great, whatever. How did I stack up to Ian Gillan? So, but I want to back this up a little bit, go through some of these screams and stuff. So, excuse me. Now, good tone, but it's I love it. I need it. I need it. Right. So he's a little sharp on the sound. Pretty good. Sounds good.
To make records with a mobile, you know, we didn't have much time. Frank Zappa and the Lovers.
Now, obviously, he's pointing to his ear, so he can't hear himself. And that's important because he's still doing this great without being able to hear himself. That's an important thing to note, because it means you have inner ear balance and you're able to kind of still be professional enough to work through something even though you can't hear yourself. Now, it is true too, most singers think they can't hear themselves because they got Ritchie Blackmore blasting in one ear and, you know, whoever else is in the band at the time blasting in another. So sounds good though. Spot on. Okay, so we're moving on to David Coverdale. Now, David Coverdale has much more of a bluesy, we all came out from Monterey. and he's so he's really kind of, marble mouthy in his sound, at least back there. Later on, he realized that cost him range, so he brought more mask into the sound, but here he doesn't. So check out my version of Mistreated. You'll see what I'm talking about, because I actually open it up into the face a lot more than he does. But let's back it up a little bit. And by the way, I also tried to get song, even though Ian Gillan was the one that was known kind of for this song, obviously. I thought it was important to again look at, and let's remember, he came from Jesus Christ Superstar. He already had kind of quite of a career going joining the band. So he came with professionalism already. When Coverdale joined the band, he was really green and really new. So Coverdale just stepped right into the shoes of Ian Gillan. Pretty tough to do that, okay? Pretty tough to do. In fact, I even heard too on one interview where Coverdale said when he did Mistreated, he did it the first night, did it a few times or whatever. He said it was awful. He went home and he cried, literally cried that night. And then he came back the next night and actually did it and stuck it and nailed it. So that's all really interesting, because even at this level, these guys, still have to work and fight for it, okay? So here we go. It doesn't hurt to have Glenn Hughes singing backup for you. Okay, so, he just nailed it. Now, Smoke in the Water is a pretty easy song to sing. It would have been kind of cool to hear him sing Highway Star. I don't have that footage, but we're going to get into Mistreated right now. Check this out.
I've been mistreated. I've been abused.
Now, you can tell his whole body, I've been mistreated. I've been abused. And he's just like everything in his body to just kind of pull it out. Well, from a technical standpoint, that's kind of the opposite of what we want to do. It looks cool for the camera. It's good to kind of leave it all on the field. I get all that. But in the end, we really want to have our stomach do all of our work with a relaxation response to build open throat technique. Yeah! It's hey! And really open up that throat to get it round and get the harmonic resonance to work for you, rather than to pinch and squeeze and do that. Now, we do hear later that he did a lot of open throat stuff, whether he realized it or not. He opened up his sound, because back here, his range was very constricted. And in Through Whitesnake, he went on to have a lot more range than what he did back in Deep Purple. Oh, by the way, I did this song. I know I only mentioned it once, but check out and see how I did. Look in the description, see if I stack up. That's why the proof is in the singing.
I've been struck downhearted, baby. I've been confused, yeah. 'Cause I know, yes I know.
Now let me show you something. So if I go, 'cause I know, and I cover the sound like modern rock singers do, and I really narrow down the vocal track, it's very, very hard to go up and reopen that sound. So instead of no, it's no. If I open up the sound like Dio, I get a bigger sound. It's easier to perform to do, and I have a lot more ability to go up in range. And I cover all of this in my singing course. This is very, very important. Let's move on.
I've been mistreated.
Still killer. It's Coverdale, man, writing the book on rock singing, basically, right?
Since my baby left me, I've been losing my mind. I've been lonely. Baby, I've been cold.
Very Coverdale. I've covered this before. Dio does a version of this you've got to check out. I forget where it was. Someone help me out, please. Put it in the comment section. I actually did a whole thing on some Dios, like the best concert I've ever seen in my life. I think it's called, or something. Best live performance I think I've ever seen by rock vocalist. And he covers this, and it's just like, holy cow. Not holy diver, holy cow. Oh my gosh, right? Anyway, so you got to check that out. I just don't know I could get any better than that, but cool. Now, obviously, Glenn Hughes stepping up to the plate. I did something really fun, guys, and I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet. And if you haven't, you really should. And I'm going to put this in the description also, even though it's not exactly directly related. I produced and arranged and whatnot a version of the song Hocus Pocus by Focus. And Gabriella is singing it, and we worked up all the parts together, her and I. I actually arranged it, did that myself. But we did little snippets where there were the instrumental parts of Hocus Pocus. We decided to put some cool classic rock stuff over the top. So we did Highway Star, we did Burn, we did some Queen stuff in between some of the breaks and whatnot. And you really should check it out because Gabriella really threw down hard. And when you hear it, I think you'll really be impressed by it. But I say that because we did a lot of these songs in that medley or in that Hocus Pocus montage. And you guys would really like it, I think. So here we go. Let me go back on this because I was talking and it kind of disrupted sort of how this whole thing played into this. Here we go. Love Glenn's bell bottoms. Now those are Glenn's, typical, it's typical screams that he would do a lot. I was really surprised, to be honest, that Ritchie Blackmore didn't have Glenn sing a lot more stuff, because Glenn is just a phenomenally talented guy out there crushing it to this day. I know he's in the Dead Daisies. He's just done so much stuff over the years. But all I can say is I'm just really surprised that Ritchie didn't bring him in on more stuff. And he was just always kind of looking for the next thing. And I know Ritchie was really difficult to deal with, everyone says. So hopefully you guys like this, but I'd really like to hear from you. Who do you think was a better vocalist? Like, who did it better? Was it Ian Gillan, David Coverdale? You hear some Glenn Hughes stuff back and forth. And again, it's hard to grade them on just this footage and this stuff, but let's look at the long haul of this. I would say personally, Ian Gillan set the precedent. And he came in, like I said, off some Broadway stuff. He came in and he kind of, sort of wrote the book on a lot of, hard rock. And it's funny because, as a lot of people think of Whitesnake as metal, I think of Whitesnake with Coverdale much more in the rock category than the metal category, though they were popularized through the 80s, so they were kind of put in that category. It's kind of weird. But I would say that Ian Gillan stylistically really set up Deep Purple, and he set it up for Ritchie to be able to invite other singers to come in, like David Coverdale. Now, David Coverdale certainly brought a cool nuance, and my understanding is too that whenever David would do a vocal, he'd run it by Glenn and get Glenn's opinion and really not do much. And I think even Glenn sang like some of the demos or some of the things, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, this is stories I've heard, where he would kind of do it first and then David would come in and sort of sing it afterwards. But we've all seen that, David and Glenn have gone on to have crazy careers. Ian, not so much, though he's, totally established or whatever. So I guess I would have to say that's a tough one. I mean, I think I favor a little bit David Coverdale, but I'd say Glenn is way up there and who wasn't influenced by Ian Gillan. So please tell me your thoughts and comments, and give me some feedback on what you think. I got a few more of these coming your way, and definitely check out my next video.